The night air in Dubai was warm yet kissed with a breeze that carried the scent of the sea. From the towering windows of the royal palace, Sheikh Hamdan gazed at the city lights that sparkled like fallen stars on earth. His heart, though surrounded by grandeur, beat only for the thought of one woman, his destined queen. Every decision, every step he had taken in recent months, was leading him to this moment. Tonight, he wasn't just the crown prince, he was a man driven by love's deepest promise. With each passing hour, the distance between them shrank, and his soul whispered to her, "I'm on the way to make you my queen." He thought about the first time he saw her, how her eyes held both innocence and strength, how her laughter had slipped into his heart without permission. He remembered telling himself that he couldn't risk such feelings, not in a world where love often had to bow to duty. But her presence had rewritten his laws. The more he tried to keep his distance, the more fate drew him closer. And now, he could no longer deny it. His journey was no longer about finding love. It was about claiming it, with the certainty of a man who knew what he was born for. The palace corridors echoed with the soft sound of his footsteps. Every guard who bowed knew something was different tonight. He was not moving with the steady rhythm of a ruler fulfilling his routine. He was moving with urgency, the kind that comes only from matters of the heart. In his mind, he saw her, waiting, unaware of how close he was. The image of her smile fueled his resolve, and he swore silently that nothing in this world could stop him now. In the heart of his private chamber, a small velvet box lay on the table, holding a ring that was more than a jewel. It was a crown for her heart. The diamond sparkled under the golden light, reflecting not just wealth but the weight of a promise. He reached for it, holding it in his palm as if it were the most delicate treasure on earth. "When I place this on your finger," he thought, "you will not just be mine in name, you will be mine in soul." As he stepped outside, the city night embraced him like an accomplice. The royal motorcade waited, engines humming softly, ready to carry him toward the woman who had unknowingly altered the course of his life. The streets of Dubai passed by in a blur, but his focus was unwavering. Each mile brought him closer to her, and with each mile, his heartbeat grew louder, not from fear, but from the intoxicating certainty of love fulfilled. In the quiet of the ride, memories washed over him, her voice like music, her gaze that spoke without words, the way she had seen the man in him beyond the titles. She had never been blinded by the crown, instead, she had challenged him, inspired him, and shown him that even a prince could crave the simplest kind of happiness. She was not just going to be his queen in ceremony, she was already the ruler of his heart. The city lights began to fade as they entered the quieter roads leading to her home. He had insisted on this journey being personal, not announced or decorated with royal protocol. This was not about a grand spectacle, this was about two souls meeting in truth. His hands tightened around the ring box, and his mind whispered over and over, "I'm almost there. Just a little longer. Hold on for me." When the car stopped, he stepped out into the warm night, feeling the world around him go still. For a moment, he stood there, looking at the doorway that separated him from her. It felt like the threshold between his past and his future. Every doubt, every fear he had once carried, dissolved into the certainty that this was his destiny. He began to walk, each step an unspoken vow. She opened the door before he could knock, as if some invisible thread had told her he was coming. Her eyes widened in surprise, but her smile bloomed instantly. In that smile, he saw his entire life, his peace, his home. Without words, he stepped closer, and the space between them disappeared as if it had never existed. The air around them seemed to hold its breath. He took her hand gently, his thumb brushing over her knuckles in a tender claim. "I'm here," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of every unspoken promise. "And I will never leave again." Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, time itself bowed to the power of their connection. The ring box felt warm in his other hand, ready to fulfill its purpose. As he knelt, not as a prince but as a man in love, the world seemed to disappear. All he saw was her, the woman who had made him believe that love could be as eternal as the desert stars. He opened the box, revealing the ring that caught the moonlight, and his voice trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from the overwhelming truth of the moment. "I came tonight to make you my queen, if your heart will have me." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she nodded, her answer written in the way she looked at him, like he was the only man who had ever existed. When he slid the ring onto her finger, it wasn't just a proposal, it was the sealing of a destiny written long before they had met. In that instant, the night seemed to bloom with unseen flowers, and the air was filled with the scent of beginnings. He rose, pulling her into his arms, and the embrace was everything he had ever searched for. Her head rested against his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heart, a rhythm that now belonged to her. In his hold, she was no longer just the woman he loved, she was the queen of his soul. And in her arms, he was no longer just a prince, he was a man complete. The city in the distance continued its restless hum, but for them, time had stopped. He knew the road ahead would have its challenges, but they would face them side by side. And as he held her beneath the moonlit sky, he whispered again, with the certainty of a man whose journey was finally complete, "I'm on the way to make you my queen, and now, I have arrived." The palace came alive in a way it had never done before. Golden lanterns glowed along the grand marble halls, casting warm light over the silken drapes and the towering arches. It was the night of their union, the night she would step into the royal world not just as his bride, but as his chosen queen. Guests from every corner of the globe arrived in glittering attire, the air filled with the soft hum of Arabic oud music and the scent of jasmine that trailed through the corridors. Every detail, from the jeweled centerpieces to the flowing carpets, told a story of love that had defied distance, time, and every rule that had once tried to keep them apart. He stood at the center of the grand hall, dressed in traditional white robes, the gold trim catching the light as though it was woven from the sun itself. But his eyes were fixed on the great doors that would soon open to reveal her. Around him, dignitaries spoke in hushed voices, but he barely heard them. The weight of his crown felt lighter tonight, for it rested on the head of a man in love, not just a ruler. In his mind, he could already hear her footsteps approaching, and every muscle in his body longed to turn toward her.